Hey, today we're going to be going over damage. Yep, the entire damage system. No point in wasting time, let's just get right into it. So firstly, how is damage calculated? Well, that depends on if you're a player or an enemy. For enemies, it's pretty much always consistent as they follow set animations. For players, on the other hand, it's far more complex. That said, we can break it up into a few parts. Weapon movement, weapon construction, buffs, and damage type. When it comes to how weapon movement plays into it, we really don't know a lot. But, as a general rule, large, fast swings are the best, and slow, small swings are really not all that good. The wiki has a description of how it's calculated, but it's complete bogus. Now that I think about it, the wiki really needs a lot of work. Anyway, the next part is weapon construction. Simply put, what blade, head, or other damaging piece you're using, as well as what metal it's made of, determine the max damage your weapon can deal before buffs. Valiant is the highest damage metal, and the three best blades/heads are the Great Sword, Great Hammer, and Great Axe, in that order. Although, the Great Sword can be put on a Phantom Guard for an insane damage boost. As for buffs, there are two kinds: weapon buffs and body buffs. Weapon buffs currently come only from skills, but there will probably be more sources of those in the future. Body buffs currently only come from stews, although there will probably also be more sources of those in the future. So, what's the best? For melee weapon buffs, it's Charged Strike plus Power Strike, making you deal roughly 225% of your normal damage, or a 125% damage increase. For ranged weapon buffs, it's Holy Arrow plus Multi-Shot 2, making you deal roughly 315% of your normal damage, or a 215% damage increase. For body buffs, the highest damage buff I could reliably get was 2.013 times normal damage. I'll explain that one in the Soups and Stews video, as it's a moderately complex setup. Next is damage types. Simply put, different enemies are weak to different things, and every weapon has a damage type, with each type having different properties. Let's go through them all. Slash. This is what most swords use, and it's generally the best in the game. It cuts food well, and most enemies aren't resistant to it. This is your jack-of-all-trades, master-of-none damage type. Pierce. This is used by rapiers, crystal lances, arrowheads, and probably a few more things I didn't think of. The main differences between this and slash are that Pierce is better with a thrusting motion than Slash's slashing motion, and that you can't cut food with Pierce damage. Blunt. This is used by hammers, rocks, knuckle guards, and possibly a few other things. This damage type can't cut food at all, but it has really high stagger damage on enemies and high cripple damage on players. Caustic. As far as I know, this is currently exclusive to Worm Spit, but it may not be in the future. If it has any special properties, I can't find anything about them. Poison. This is used by poisons. That's about all there is to say about it. Explosive. This is used by explosives for explosions. I'm not sure if it does high cripple damage as a part of it, or if it's just that explosives tend to be high damage leading to high cripple damage. Last, spiritual. I'm not 100% sure on the extent of what this is used for, but I'm pretty sure stuff like multi-shot and air slash use it. I'll get into what enemies are weak to what in the upcoming video on resistance, as there's more testing and research I need to do before I can confidently talk about that. One last thing before we move on: while not all of these damage types appear on the wiki, they do all exist in-game, as they can be easily found by looking through the files. That said, I have no idea if there's some terms of service or EULA that forbids that, so I wouldn't recommend trying it. Now that we've got all that boring explanation crap out of the way, how does this all actually relate to us playing the game? What can we do with all this information? Well, we can put it all together to get some really insane damage figures. For melee damage, if we combine a Phantom Guarded Valiant Greatsword, a katana handle, the best soup in the game to get the best body buff, and then use Power Strike and Charged Strike together to get the best weapon buff, we can get a single hit damage of 6.52 bars, or 26.09 hearts of damage. That's more than enough to insta-kill any player, so long as they aren't using commands to increase their health beyond the normal maximums. As for ranged damage, if we combine a Valiant Tipped Arrow, Holy Arrow, Multi-Shot 2, and the best Soup to get the best body buff, we can get a single shot damage of 6.1 bars, or 24.4 hearts, of damage. That's also more than enough to insta-kill any normal player. Unfortunately, we can't really use any of the enemy weaknesses to our advantage here, as only Slash and Pierce type weapons can go on Phantom Guards, and arrows do exclusively Pierce and Explosive type damage. Also, side note, did you know that you deal 15% less damage when you're below the hunger threshold and can't run? Well, that's everything I've got for damage. There may be stuff I missed, so if you know something for sure that I didn't mention, let me know in the comments. Also, if you have a weapon you want me to review in an upcoming episode of Weapon Review, the link to submit that is in the description. And with all that said, I'll see you around.